But yeah, so we're going to take you on a little adventure. So like I said, I'm Alex Trowers.
I'm Leanne Bayley.
Yeah, and we are Wild Stallions. You can follow us on Twitter at BulkPaint or at Ikuya. Now, originally this talk was going to be titled How to Make a Game While Making a Baby. But it turns out there's only like 2 positions you can use where you can both still reach a laptop. So instead, this is now 2 devs and a baby. And it's a story of us and basically what we've been doing for this last year. So as we go on our little adventure, you'll find these treasure chests. Ha-ha! So Inception. How did we end up where we are now? How did we sort of start the process of doing this? Basically, it started when Leanne told me she was pregnant, which is some fantastic news. I thought it was brilliant. But it turns out that when you are pregnant, you can't get a job in the industry anymore. Leanne was already a game designer, already working in a company. And then as soon as she was pregnant and wanted to move in with me to where I lived, she couldn't get a job. And it's bad, but that's just the way it works. So rather than sitting around at home doing nothing while I was at work all day, we thought, well, we'll get this game. I'll teach her how to use Unity, and she can sit at home making a game while I'm at work, and then I'll come home and I'll help her with that. Then it kind of became Plan A. Now, the reason it became Plan A is because I got fired. And so I'm now without a job. Leanne is without a job and pregnant. And we didn't really know what to do. So what we should have done, and in all honesty, this is still probably... Yeah, this is still what we should have done, I think. Yeah, even though what we've done kind of work, we should have done this. I should have gone out and found a job, but I didn't. And we kind of sat there and we went, well, how hard can it be? Well, why don't we just take this little thing that we were going to make as an exercise for you? Why don't we just take that and actually make it as a full game and go do it ourselves? And we need to do it before the baby arrives. So, yeah, how hard can that be? Understandably, we ran into a few problems. The first of which was the office space. Now, this is our office. That was our office. Now, I think that looks like a sort of slightly deranged, pixelated dog. Yeah? Anyone seen that? And that was quite nice. Like, whenever we would come home, we'd walk up this alleyway, and there it would be, like, waiting to greet us. But that place was a dump. It was an absolute hole. It was my first little flat, and it was tiny. It was a 1-bedroom flat. Essentially, Leanne would sit here at her desk, and the fridge was there. Which sounds really, really bad, unless you are 6 months pregnant, in which case, ooh, snack time.
Great, really handy.
And I think desk fridge is something that we may reinstigate in the new place. House of cards. Are you familiar with this phrase? It's a phrase we use in English to describe something that's kind of really sort of shaky. And it looks nice, maybe it looks nice, and it's quite tall and everything, but you add one more card and the whole thing just collapses. Now, this is true on so many levels with this project. Firstly, our actual house may as well have been made out of cards. We lost the roof blew off, and I spent Christmas Eve crawling around in the attic with buckets trying to catch water before it all just came through in the kitchen. The boiler broke, so again, Christmas, we didn't have any hot water at all or any heating or anything. The place was a nightmare. And then, so shortly after I'd lost my job and we decided, well, okay, let's do this. That's when the landlord called up and said, you have to move out in March. I'm going to knock the whole place down. I'm like, okay, all right. So there were a number of problems associated with this. But the House of Cards also refers to the code. I am not a coder. I have done some code. In fact, Bjarne will attest to me writing some code and our project leader at the time saying, listen, we're really, really pushed for time now. So if you could not write any more code, that would be really beneficial because I'm sick of fixing your bugs. I can write gameplay code. I shouldn't be the one doing architecture, but it was just me and Leanne. So I was doing architecture as well. That meant that when everything worked, it was fine, and we could just throw code at it and all the features, and it would be really, really cool. But the instant any one thing broke, that's it, the wheels come off, I've no idea how to fix this, and we're in big trouble. So the longer we could go without breaking anything, the better, but when it broke in a spectacular fashion. And then, of course, there's this immovable deadline. How many of you here have worked on games? Yeah? How many of you here have released that game according to the first date you said you would release it? Yeah, see? It doesn't happen. Everyone slips. And everyone always slips by 2 weeks, and I'm not really sure why. But 2 weeks seems to be the industry standard movable deadline. We didn't have that luxury. There is Leanne on the right. That thing sticking out of her belly was coming whether we liked it or not, and it was coming at a given date. We could not be later than that because we kind of knew that, listen, as soon as the baby arrives, we're not really going to get a chance to do this. So we have to get it finished by then. So there was a lot of pressure on us at the start of the year. But, you know, we thrive on pressure. It's okay. And we managed to finish the game. We got it to the stage where we were happy with it. It got to there was kind of that week where we were just sitting there going, what else do we actually need to do to this? This feels okay, maybe we should release it. We got a couple of shots of the game as well. And this is the game, it's called Glyph Quest, available on iOS and Android right now.
At the moment.
Has anybody got Glyph Quest? Oh, look at that, that's good. Yes, so it looks like a simple match 3, and you drag all these glyphs together. They're all sort of elemental glyphs. So if you mix like the water ones together, you'll cast a water spell, and you'll shoot the bad guy, and his health bar will go down, and you'll kill him, and a new monster will appear, and you'll get loot, and you level up, and you learn more powerful spells. You can suddenly start chaining together more and more glyphs, and then eventually you can start combining them together, so you could mix like the water and the dark ones together and you'll create a poison and so on and so forth. And you kill bigger and bigger monsters, yada, yada, yada. I think there's another shot as well of you fighting. There you go, there's an evil skeleton knight guy who's just been zapped by... oh, that's the orbital laser. Yeah, cool. So that was the game. And we finished it and we thought, this is cool, this is brilliant, this is going to work. We've got time, brilliant. So has anyone released games on iOS before? Yeah? And so there's this whole submission process. It's all very well and good finishing your game. Now, I used to say, back in the day, it was easy. You could get a computer and you had everything you needed to make a game. But once you'd made the game, there was nothing you could do with it. Yeah, you needed to get a publisher, you needed to get all of that before anyone actually could get to play your game. That was a pain in the ass. Then it got to the stage where even when you had the computer, games were so big and huge that you just didn't have the resources to make a game in the first place. And even if you did, there was nothing you could do with it. But nowadays, it's come full circle so that you can get a computer and you can get Unity, you can get whatever you want for free, and you've got enough to make a game. But on top of that, there are now so many avenues available to you by which you can actually get it into the hands of the people who want to play it. And so our method was Apple. So we tried to go through Apple submission. We'd never done it before, so it was a bit of an unknown. But it turns out submission is the easy part. That was relatively easy. So we put it through submission. We passed first time, and we were very impressed. However, we went through review. It said waiting for review. Then it went, yep, available, ready for launch. So we pressed the button and excitedly started telling all of our friends. As Emmy will tell you, it's about marketing. You could have the best game in the world, but if you release it and nobody knows about it, your game isn't going to do anything. So our grand marketing plan was to tell everyone we knew, and in fact tell a whole bunch of people that we didn't know. So we're sending out emails and we're pinging everybody and saying, hey, look, here's our game, you've got to try it. The first person to get back to us was Leanne's sister, in about 15 minutes of us saying it's gone live. And she'd sent us a screenshot of the game from an earlier version. And we're like, oh, well, that's not right. That can't be. What? And so we checked it out, and sure enough, the version on the App Store was a considerably earlier version. It had none of the monetization in, so we couldn't get any money off you if we tried. It had all of the old graphics. It didn't have any of the levels. It was a mess.
It also had game-killing bugs in it.
Yeah, like the fact that the game wasn't finished. It just wasn't.
It was about a month previous, and it took us 4 months to make, so a month previous was like a really rough game.
There's more than a quarter of the game missing. Thinking back, I know exactly when that happened. That happened in one of those House of Cards moments where Xcode was playing silly buggers and I didn't know how to fix it, and I was just randomly pressing buttons until, eventually it all built again. Brilliant. So somewhere in that and the weird archiving process, a dodgy version got onto Apple. So we were concerned because we didn't know how to fix this at all. However, the good thing that came about this was a piece of Apple contact. So our first port of call was, I called my friends, they came over, they fixed it for me. Right, one sort of recurring theme to this whole thing is it's not what you know, it's who. One of the most important things you can do, one of the most important things you should do is develop a network of contacts. These contacts, you never know when they're going to come in handy. So as it stands, I've got a lot of experience in the games industry. I've met a lot of people. I basically pinged them all and said, help. And a couple of them came back and said, listen, I've got an email address for a guy at Apple, maybe you should speak to them. So we got in touch with Apple, and I said, hey, listen, we've made a terrible mistake. We've released this game, and somehow we've uploaded the wrong version. We've got the new version ready to go now, but we've had to pull the other one off the store, and we've told everyone it's ready, so is there any chance you could speed up the review process? And the guy said, well, yeah, that's not a problem at all, but actually the biggest mistake you made was you didn't come and talk to us first. I was like, ooh, interesting, because now I'm smelling a feature. And I don't know if you know much about the Apple Store, but unless you are featured, you are nothing. If you get featured, there is every chance that people will find your game. But because there's God knows how many millions of games out there at the moment, if you're not on that front page, if you're not on the easily accessible charts, anything like that, then nobody's going to find your game. So we spoke to them, and we got it all released, and sure enough, we actually found out that we did get featured, which was crazy because we didn't do any of the things that you normally should do to get featured, i.e. we hadn't spoken to them first, our game didn't use all of the cool, whatever the iOS was at the time, or whatever new device had come out at the time, all the features of that. Our game is a pretty simple, it's not really Match 3, but a Match 3-like.
Do we even have Game Center in it at that?
Yeah, we did, no Game Center, no nothing. So we weren't feature-rich in any way. Crucially, though, the guys who we were talking to and the guys who they showed it then played the thing and went, oh yeah, this is pretty good, this. I like it. So that was our in. You cannot expect that to happen. They're not going to give you the time of day. And it's only because we went to them short-circuited. We short-circuited the usual channels by knowing people and going, yep, okay. This probably doesn't go down too well in the Gamergate scandal thing, does it, at the moment, the whole corruption thing. But it is crucially important to know the right people. So anyway, the game came out. The game beat the baby by 2 weeks, but the baby was late by 1 week. So that's literally how close it was. The game came out and everyone seemed to like it. If they played it, they seemed to like it. So Touch Arcade, they said it's already one of their very favourites. They, in fact, gave it their game of the week. Granted, it was the middle of January and a slow week for games, but we're still taking that. It counts. Pocket Tactics liked it, Pocket Gamer. And, these websites, I've heard of these websites. So that was really, really nice. It wasn't just some guy in his back room going, oh, I've played this thing. So anyway, that was Glyph Quest. And we were really pleased with the way that turned out. We haven't done a notch. We can't just retire and give up this life of crime now. But it did enough to get us to where we are now. Well, it almost did enough to get it to where we are now. Anyway, then the game changer. What happened next? Well, Parenthood happened next, which, okay, who here's got kids? That right there is what happened next. And everything, literally everything changes then. There's a couple of things that happen as soon as you become a parent. And there's this digital switch that goes off in your head. And that is, suddenly you know exactly what it is that you have to do with your life. You know what you have to do. You've got no idea how you're going to do it, but you know what it is. And that is ensure that that thing gets everything they need to live a long and healthy, happy life. Everything else doesn't, nothing else matters. Really, it doesn't. So anyway, that is Willow. She's here, you'll meet her later. But she happened, and everything changed. So we've got a choice now. We can either go that way or we can go up there. If we go that way, we're going to learn about the rest of the game. If we go up there, then there's a sort of an aside. If we chat to that chap there. So that's our friend Shin. He's a guy I used to work with at Bullfrog back in the day. And he came to us with a strange proposal. He kind of, again, this is all part of the who you know thing. He wanted to set up a business that would take Western games to the Japanese market. And he would do all of the localization, he would do all the translation, and more. Now, when you're preparing your game for other territories, you can localize it, i.e. just translate the words, and that's the bare minimum you need to do. That is absolutely the bare minimum. What you miss out on by just doing that is the nuance, the jokes, the humor, the cultural references, all sorts of stuff like that. What you actually need is a person who can speak both languages and is natively fluent in both languages, who doesn't just say, this phrase means this. He actually takes the meaning of that phrase and converts it into a better phrase for the target audience. And that's what they were able to do. They got the humor, they got a lot of the references, so they were able to do that. The other thing that they did was, their company's called Chorus Worldwide, by the way. And they're now doing, and again, part of, essentially Shin's portfolio is games made by ex-Bullfrog employees. So Finn McGecky has done Sky Patrol, so that's coming out over there. Mark Pitcher, who's done The Secret of Raven Rock. Has anyone heard of that one? That's just come out. That's going over there. I think they're even picking up The Room as well, Barry Mead's The Room. But yeah, so they do the whole thing. They convert everything. The other thing they wanted to do was change the graphics a bit because our art style needed a bit more, colour? So they kind of brightened everything up. They changed the icons and just sort of tinkered with the game a bit to make it more suitable to the Japanese audience. So you can see stuff like, everything's just a bit brighter. They added a button so that you could run away in the middle of combat, because apparently Asians like being able to go, I didn't mean that, go back out again. I don't know. So it was interesting because a lot of that feedback we took from them seemed like a good idea. So we thought, okay, maybe we'll feed that back into the original version. There were several things to be learned from this. One, we got a bit cocky, because the way Shin was bigging it up, it was like, this is it, this is going to be the new Puzzle & Dragons, this is the one, this is how you retire and buy a Lamborghini and stuff. They'd taken it into a full free-to-play model. So our monetization model for the original Glyph Quest is it's free to download, and you can play up to like level 5, and then there's one IAP, and you buy it, and you get the whole rest of the game. So it's the equivalent of the old shareware model. Yeah, everyone's familiar with that? So it's sort of a try before you buy. This got us into a fair bit of trouble, actually, just because people didn't get it. It's an old enough monetization model that the people who are buying certainly mobile games haven't heard of it, because no one does it anymore. So there were some people who were balking at the idea that the game said it was free, but you had to pay to progress. And then there were some people who went the other way and just went, I'm not downloading that game because it features in-app purchases, and I don't want that, I want to pay up front. And we were kind of in the middle going, no, it's neither of those things. Hang on, can't you see how this is a good way of doing it? So there was some trouble with the semantics, and also our presentation on certainly in the early versions when we were saying, now you need to give us some money, that wasn't so good. So there were a lot of people balking at that. So Shin decided to convert it to a full free-to-play model. So it would be free to download, free to play all the way through, and then he would sell you gold, and you could buy more potions and stuff like that using gold. And this didn't work, and we were convinced it wasn't going to work ahead of time anyway.
We had our doubts. It wasn't big enough, there wasn't enough content to keep people coming back and paying for more gold. You pretty much get everything you need from one playthrough.
Yeah. So, oh dear.
Lost the dungeon.
Why have you done that? What we learnt was, we didn't really, oh dear. Does anyone know? Anyone hack?
Password 123.
Password.
Somebody want to grab Lynn? We were convinced that this was all going to be fine and dandy, but we know now that, no, we shouldn't have gone free to play. We needed more content. You need a sort of game as a service as well. You need to be able to maintain it, and that's not something we had the resources to do. We're just tiny thing. I mean, if you've ever played, who's played Puzzle & Dragons? Yeah? There's always new stuff. There's always new stuff coming out, another new dungeon, another new set of creatures to unlock, and so on. So we couldn't do that. Oh, we're still going. Excellent. Right, so that's kind of what we learned from that. And now we can go on to the next thing. You have to come back through this door.
Are you going to talk about Famitsu now or later?
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. Has anyone heard of Famitsu? Yeah? They're pretty much the biggest game reviewers in Japan. And they really liked the game. They liked the game so much, they said we were dried cuttlefish.
Yes.
No, they said, that's it. They said, this is dried cuttlefish.
game.
And we were like, hey, thank you. What? So again, we went to Shin and said, what the hell is this? Are they crazy? There's no cuttlefish in our game. And he said, no. So it's a Japanese phrase which means, like dried cuttlefish, you eat it and you're like, what the hell? And then you chew it and you go, oh, no, okay. And the more you chew it, the nicer it tastes. And so we were like really, really pleased with that. So we've kind of adopted that as the motto now for everything we do now. So this brings us on to Super Glyph Quest. Like Glyph Quest, but super. When we made Glyph Quest, it was only ever going to be this fire and forget thing. We were going to do it, we were going to get it out because we were in a rush. It was only ever going to be a learning experience. We didn't expect it to do anything. But it turns out that people really liked it. And as James was saying earlier, I mean, there was a whole bunch of stuff that we didn't get a chance to put in that we wanted to. But we were up against it and we were like, well, we can't do that. So we were cutting. But remembering all of this stuff that we wanted to do in case we ever did a sequel. Not that we ever planned it to. But then that's what this happened. So when we decided to do it, and we sat down and we went, well, what can we do? What can we do that's better? How can we make this more super than the first one? So we got a bit ambitious. It was going to have just more content and more role-playing elements and more features. We were going to throw the book at it and see what we could do. The advantage we had was that we kind of knew what we were doing this time around as well. So we were going to have character customization. We were going to have a story. The other one didn't have a story. I'm not a big fan of stories in games, but people seem to want it. So we were going to throw in a story and everything and all sorts of stuff. The other thing we managed to do, and again, part of this is who you know, was some collaborations. So our first collaboration is with actually that guy there. His name is Jim Zubkovich. He's a comic book writer. He's writing the new D&D comic book at the moment, the Baldur's Gate stuff. He's writing that. But he's got his own comic book called Skull Kickers. Has anyone heard of them? Probably not. I think it's not even that big in the States yet, but it's interesting. So basically you get this big bald guy and this dwarf, and they're a couple of mercenaries, and they kick the living snot out of creatures for money. And it's interesting, and it really, really suits us because it plays sort of fast and loose with normal role-playing fantasy paradigms, and it always sort of takes the mickey out of them. So that kind of suits the humour level of our game. So he was saying, because we got him to play Glyph Quest. We met him from the Animex Festival, which is this thing that takes place in Teesside every February. Anyone been? Some of you Norwegians have been. Anyway, you should totally go check that out. It's a really good festival. Kind of like this, but also does film, animation, and comics, and more games. So we met him there, and we've been friends ever since. And he said, "Yeah, I've got this thing. Why don't you use that? I'll write you some story arc for them, and away we go." So we did that. So there's a whole story arc in the game involving helping these guys kick the crap out of monsters for money. Anyone heard of that? Hatterful Boyfriend? Yeah. Okay. So, about 2 months ago? Something like that?
A bit longer than that.
A bit longer, 3 months ago. Yeah. We get an email from Hatto Moa, and she is the artist. She's the creator of Hatterful Boyfriend. Right, so who hasn't heard of Hatterful Boyfriend? Who doesn't know what it's about? Okay, so I'm just going to blow through this, and you kind of have to... It involves a certain leap of faith here, because what I'm going to say sounds really, really weird. So Hatterful Boyfriend is a game about you are the only human female at an all-pigeon high school, and you have to take these pigeons, actually not just pigeons, some of them are doves, some of them are partridges. You have to take them out on dates and learn and generate relationships with them and pick one to be your boyfriend.
It's a dating simulator.
Yeah, except with pigeons. But apparently it's a big deal. Like everyone is like, okay, this is batshit crazy, but people really, really like it. So yes, we get an email from the creator of this saying, hey, I've just been playing your Glyph Quest. I really, really like it. I'm available for hire. If you want to work together in the future, that would be really, really nice. And we got back and said, well, that's brilliant. Sadly, we have a budget of exactly £0, so we can't afford to hire you or anything like that, but we are working on the sequel. And she said, well, I tell you what, why don't I do you some artwork for the sequel, and you can use my characters, and I'll promote you with my stuff, and you can promote me with your stuff. So we ended up with a Hatoful Boyfriend in our game. Essentially what happens is here, Angel, the Luzon Bleeding Heart Dove and Crimson Angel of Judecca, I don't make this stuff up, he rocks up in your world because Wallenstein, the evil sorcerer, has turned up to try and recruit other feathered creatures to take back to their world and dominate the world there. And so he's come over to stop him, and you have to track down this, what is he, he's a something partridge?
It's just a partridge, but he's an evil partridge.
An evil partridge.
Calamitous sorcerer.
Yeah.
Wallenstein.
So you have to then help him track the other guy down and beat him up before he can take this army of feathered mythological beasts back and take over his world. So yeah, that was completely out of the blue. But this sort of stuff, I guess, just happens. I don't know. But it's what you'd expect from a high school filled with pigeons. So going into this, we obviously knew some stuff. We weren't going into it blind. The first Glyph Quest was a Hail Mary pass, and this one we had a much better idea. So we knew that. What did we know? We knew about the submission process. Is that next?
We knew that people liked it.
Yeah. Press button?
We could do it.
Yeah. So we knew about the submission process. We knew what it was going to take to get through. We knew the structure. If you walk away from the chest and back into it, we knew the structure, i.e., because of the whole House of Cards thing before, which kind of came about because we were making it up as we went along. With this one, we knew what it was we were trying to achieve from the start, so we were able to structure it a lot better. So the spell pass is a lot better, the map is a lot better, the character stuff is a lot more robust. Obviously, there comes a point in development when we then start throwing stuff at it and seeing if it sticks, but we were able to get a much firmer foundation, so that was good. And we knew that the game was good. We knew that the game was good because it reviewed quite well, and everybody we talked to seemed to really, really like it. Yes, it was a little rough around the edges, and there were some problems to fix, but that's the point of doing this sequel. We could fix all of those things. The other way you know that your game is good is that, obviously, as you're developing it, you're going to playtest it from time to time. In fact, you're going to playtest it a lot if you know what you're doing, right? And whatever bug that you've just fixed, or whatever feature you've just implemented that you need to playtest and see if it works, that takes 5 minutes. Yep, that feature works. If half an hour later you're still playing that same game, that means you've got something good on your hands. And we were doing that with alarming regularity. It would be like, did you fix that? Well, yes. Well, get on with the rest of the stuff then. You've just been there for an hour. Oh, okay. So we were confident that people were going to like this one because it is just better than the first one. But that still doesn't stop us learning. You're always learning. And we found a bunch of stuff out. Firstly, time vampire. She is a time vampire. What I mean is you look at her and then suddenly you go, what happened to Tuesday? And well, frankly, you spent Tuesday looking at her. And so part of it is you're looking at her making sure she doesn't fall off something or into something or stab herself with something. Babies are stupid. And partly is because, oh, look at her with the see the tail? Yeah, she bounces in that and it's got a tail and a squinkly face and she's so happy. And you can just sit there and stare at them the whole time. This probably wears off, but it hasn't yet. It hasn't yet. She's 8 months old now and it still hasn't worn off. And this makes it hard to work. Not impossible. You can apparently multitask. But it certainly takes its toll. So the second game, the biggest problem was finding time to work on it. It threw our work-life balance out. Now, our work-life balance was already pretty down the swanny anyway. But, I mean, this is a picture of our living room wall, which is tastefully decorated with Post-it notes. So that's our project plan there. It's up on the living room wall. And all of the green ones, that's like your main quest arc, and then all of the purple ones up the top there are the things you unlock. All the orange ones are adventures, and all these yellow ones down here, these are all side quests. Down here we've got all of the various different upgrades you can get. And so we're sitting there, and everyone else has got like wallpaper or paint or whatever, and we've got Post-it notes. There's another one on the other side of the wall, which is all of the art tasks that need doing and so on. So everything in our life for the last 3 to 4 months has been solely to do with producing Super Glyph Quest and making sure the baby doesn't die. Very important. So it's not been particularly easy. You know what? That's a pretty bad title, isn't it? The Final Countdown. I suppose we're not there yet. We're not there yet. As we stand, the game is in submission. But honestly, the last 2 months we've been crunching. Now, who knows what that term means? Yeah, okay. And it's terrible and it's horrifying. In all honesty, our day kind of goes like this. 8 o'clock in the morning, Willow wakes up. So we have to wake up. And you look after Willow and you play her and you feed her and you change her and you do all of the things to ensure that she doesn't die until about midday, maybe, when she might have a bit of a nap. And that gives you like an hour, 2 hours to get on with some work. Then she's up again, and she'll be up until about 7 when you need to give her a bath, put her to bed, ensure she doesn't die. Then you've got maybe an hour or so to maybe tidy the house, get yourself some food, that sort of thing, and then you can sit down and get on with your work. So we'd start work around maybe 8 o'clock, 8:30, something like that, and we would work through until about 4 in the morning. And then you can go and get some sleep for about 4 hours, then she's up again. And we've been doing that every day, weekends, weekdays, every day for the last 2 months. In fact, the last couple of weeks have been, at one point, one of us will be working 24 hours. You'd do an all-nighter and hand the baby over like, right, I can't handle the baby anymore, I need to sleep now. And you'd maybe get a couple of hours in the middle of the day. This is not healthy. I don't advocate doing that at all. But we had another removable deadline, and that was the fact that we just run out of money. Glyph Quest wasn't so successful that we could stand here now flush with bulging bank accounts going, yeah, this is great. We have run out of money, and how we're going to pay next month's rent is anyone's guess. So we really need Super Glyph Quest to be a success. That was a hint, by the way. What do we hope that happens? We're not greedy. We don't want to make millions out of this. We want to be able to pay rent next month. We want to be able to make the next game. But what we hope is that we can do everything for her. Like I said, it puts it into such sharp focus. This is brilliant, by the way, as well. This just gives me an excuse to show giant baby photos to as many people as possible. One of the other things, when you become a new parent, all you do is show people baby photos. If you're lucky, and you can collar Leanne later, she'll tell you about how the birth came about.
If you're lucky.
Yeah, don't do that if you've got an X chromosome, by the way. It's not, don't. Yes, so we really, really hope that it's a success for her, but only a modest success, enough for what we need. It will be, provided it gets through submission. It's in submission now. Incidentally, this is a really, really stupid time to be in submission. Apple are backed up at the moment because iOS 8 was less smooth as they'd have hoped. Everyone is updating their apps to fix all the things that it is now broken. Also, it's Halloween, and then it's Thanksgiving, and then it's Christmas. So there's a load of people releasing apps for that. So the wait time is huge at the moment. But all being well, we should come out on the 23rd. Whereupon, it is vital that we get featured for all the same reasons as it was before. The advantage we've got is that there's something else out there already, and so fans of the first one are watching the second one for when the second one comes out. The other advantage we've got is, again, it's not what you know, it's who. We are speaking to the person we need to speak to about being featured. And he told us to release on that. They never tell you whether you're featured or not, but they do tell you if you were to, you should probably release on this day. And
They don't tell you when you get featured, because we didn't know.
Yeah, they don't do. The first you know about it is you check the App Store on release and go, whoa, there we are, or not. Yeah, so he told us to release on this date, so we're doing what he said, because he gets to choose. We know he's a fan of the first game, which is really, really useful. And Leanne's got a photo of him in a dress in a hotel room at 3 in the morning at a develop conference when they're both really, really hammered. So if all else fails, we could do that. But anyway, that is the story of Super Glyph Quest. Thank you very much for listening. Hopefully, we should have a bit of time for questions. Can be on anything. Can be on games. Can be on babies now. You know, we're something of an expert. We're really not an expert. But yeah, fire away. We have the microphone runners. Anybody got any questions or anything they would like to just say? Or would anybody like to see more baby photos? We could so do that.
Well, certainly.
We've got a video of her in the bouncy thing. It's brilliant. Also, hyperlapse. Anyone heard of hyperlapse? Hyperlapse plus baby, gold. That's brilliant. You can just film them as they're like... We've got one of her eating a table. Anybody got any questions at all? In here? And then I saw a hand up there as well. Someone who wants a mic that way.
I just want to tell you, you've taught me a great lesson. Don't get a baby.
No, that's not the takeaway from this. Get a baby by all means. Don't get a baby while you're crunching, or don't crunch while you're having a baby. But you should absolutely get a baby. Getting a baby is a wonderful, wonderful thing. Incidentally, I don't think there is ever a right time to have a baby. If you're always going, but now's not quite the time. Now is not quite the time until the end of time. There will always be a reason to not have one. But don't do what we did. Yeah.
My real question is, do you think your baby will be affected by your career? Or do you think she maybe will become more creative?
I really hope she grows up to be a nerd. Otherwise, I don't know what I'll do with her.
How will we relate to her if it's like,
I won't be able to talk to her. If she doesn't like Firefly, I'm...
Sure, it's okay. So she loves certainly the theme music too. Firefly and The Big Bang Theory and Friends. Those, if ever they come on TV, she just stops whatever she's doing, just stares at the TV. So we've got high hopes. I think it's going to go one of two ways. She's either going to rebel against this crazy crap that her parents do, or she's going to embrace it. And I think that's true of any kid. Obviously, she's going to become a teenager and break my heart and then just think that we're really not cool, so she doesn't want to do any of that anymore. But again, that's part and parcel of it, and we're going to treasure the time between now and then.
Will you be careful of which games you introduce her to?
This is like me and my friends talk about this a lot, because there's like, do we let her start playing games that are going to be out for her age group, or does she have to have the heritage? Does she go back and play Mario 1? Because I think she should.
Yeah, she needs the heritage. You need to understand that.
I think so too.
Yeah, so it's a difficult subject. But
Are we going to start her on GTA? No. Is she going to play GTA? Yes, of course. Why not? It's a valuable thing to play. And hopefully by the time she does that, we will have given her a good moral and ethical grounding so that she knows that, and there's a distinction between this is just a game, this is real life. What you do in this isn't necessarily appropriate for what you do in this. And as soon as she gets that concept, then there's no reason why she shouldn't enjoy that sort of stuff. Hopefully also by the time that she has grown up, then this Gamergate thing has blown over, and maybe we've got more games that are better suited to women. There's no better incentive for me to broaden my game development and start thinking, but what would she like to play? At the moment, she likes to play eating things. Anybody else? Ingvild, do you want to get that guy as well?
I can probably. Just a quick question. How are you doing monetization for this one?
This one, we've gone pure premium. So it's pay up front, please. We did this for a number of reasons. One, it's simple. Two, I didn't have to bug the guy who wrote the IAP code for the last game. I know how the premium thing works, so that'll be fine. But yeah, like I said, there wasn't the language to describe what it was that we did last time. If we had a bit more time, I think that's the one we would have gone with again.
I think it will change, and it might come more readily available because of things that the app stores are going through at the moment, with the whole backlash against free-to-play games that actually you can't play unless you pay money for them. So there might come a time when there are three different storefronts. You've got your paid chart, your free chart, and your free within-app purchases. That's when we might revisit it, when people can understand it a bit better. But yeah, which is for the amount of people who said, good job on having just one solo in-app purchase. Those were very few compared to everyone else. Was like, I can't believe you made me pay for it. A whole £1.50. How dare you?
Yeah.
So yeah.
This is. I mean, obviously we could go.
Although it's on sale at the moment.
It's on. Yeah. On iOS.
Yeah.
What's the split here? Who's got iOS? And who's got Android? Yeah. But it is available on Android. And it's still only, I don't know what it was, it's 190 krona? Something like that. Does that sound reasonable for a game? No. Okay, it's not 190 krona. 19 kroner? There you go. Right, it's probably that. It's a tier 2 pricing anyway. Obviously, we're at a very great danger of derailing this whole thing into a tirade against the evil of free-to-play. But we didn't want to do that. We didn't want to. Free-to-play isn't evil. Free-to-play is not an evil thing. The lazy implementation of it, where they just cookie cut or whatever went before, that's bad. The sneaky psychological crap they do to try and trick you into spending money, that's crap. The actively hampering your game once you have spent money because they know you will spend money to fix the fact that you've hampered their game, that's crap. But free-to-play in itself isn't. We, like I said, like we learned from the whole Japan thing, we don't have the resources to maintain a free-to-play service. So it would be a while before we end up doing something like that. Although our next game may well be an experimental free-to-play thing. We'll see how well this does, and if it gives us that leeway, then we might experiment with the other one and see if we can't do it right. We'd like to do. There's a game that we'd like to make, which would be sort of in the League of Legends space. And League of Legends, I love the way that monetizes. Everyone does. Except everyone does except for businessmen who look at it and go, "But you could make so much more money if you just did it more aggressively." And Riot, to their absolute credit, have said, no, we're not interested because that would gouge our players. We make enough, thank you. And that, I think there needs to be more of that attitude in game development. In game publishing. Game developers generally they don't care, they get to make games, they're really, really enjoying it. But it's the money men who are going, we can really, really turn the screw on this. So.
Yeah, as a follow-up, because I'm working with some guys and we're thinking of the same model you used for your first game. Like free, but then you have one purchase to get the full game. And what we're worried about with the pay up front thing is that if you're on the store page and it says this game costs $1.50, and right next to it there's a bunch of games that says free.
Yeah.
Like, why would people click your thing when you are competing against free stuff?
That's exactly why we did it the way we did for the first one, because on the surface it does look like a match 3 game, and if you're sitting there next to Candy Crush, Bejeweled, Puzzle and Dragon, they are all free to download. So it's like, why would I download this one I know nothing about and actually pay money for it? So we did do that. There's merit in it, but I think you have to communicate it from the very beginning very clearly so that no one's under any illusions. And then also the fact that, like, yes, you've played to level 5 and now you've paid, but at level 10 you don't pay again. Like, so long as they know that it's not Candy Crush, you don't get 15 levels and then it's 69p each time. So as long as you're really straight up about it, then you can do it. But it is kind of, people do backlash against the whole in-app purchase thing just on the top.
All of this thing falls fairly at the feet of the modern gamer, the modern mobile gamer. They want something for nothing and they don't want to read the instructions. If they were prepared to pay, then it would be fine. If they read the instructions that says, listen, this isn't free to play, you get this far, then you get the rest, then it would also be fine. But they don't do either of those things, but they are quite happy to just jump on a forum and go, hey, this is a terrible rip-off, which is, you just want to slap them. But apparently you're not allowed to do that.
This guy here had a question.
Yeah, so originally going to ask about the monetization model as well, but
You can, I've got plenty more on monetization, I'm good to go.
it's lots of exact same question as earlier, but I have another one, and that's about the localization. You said you were a bit happy about using the right calls and such.
Oh, no, that side of it,
No,
that was fine.
They did a fantastic job in terms of, especially translating all of Alex's wonderful text.
She hates the puns.
There's so many puns. Do you know how difficult it is to localise puns? There was one quest which was the lyrics to The Sound of Music. How do you translate
But with
that?
goblins.
Yeah.
The hills were alive with the screams of goblins and the screams of the dead on 1,000 spears.
Something like
Yeah, it was great.
that. It was marvellous.
And somebody got that. I saw a forum post saying, "What? I wasn't expecting this. This is crazy."
But they did a really good job with that.
The localization side of things was absolutely spot on. They did, like I said, they did a much better job than you would have done had you just got someone who translates the words. They did everything, and that was fine. And we didn't have to lift a finger, which was music to our ears, because we couldn't.
But we should have been a bit stricter on, like,
It's-
saying, you know what, we're not going to be a good free-to-play game, so don't try and make it a free-to-play game because it just won't support it. It also didn't help that when we launched in Japan, there was a massive backlash
Against free-to-play.
So, like, because it did much better in Singapore.
Yeah.
We did Japan.
China was our big
Singapore,
numbers. China was the
Hong
big
Kong,
numbers.
And Taiwan.
Yeah.
So it was all of those territories in one bucket.
And they did 3 languages as well. They did Japanese, Korean, and Chinese.
So, but yeah, it reviewed amazingly well in Japan. It's just no one paid any money for it.
Yeah, Famitsu liked it. We'll take that.
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but is the new version going to sort of be inspired by the localization? Because is the colors going to be as bright, or at least brighter?
A little bit, yeah.
In the unlocalized?
It's kind of halfway between the two,
Yeah,
I would say.
It's not quite as saturated because some of it was day glow, and I'm not okay with that.
Yeah, we've got the version with us. You can come and have a play with it later. In terms of localization, we've made it considerably easier in that I've put all of the text in one file, whereas before it was in all the different prefabs and various different bits of code and all sorts. So how they just trawled through everything to pull out all the text, I've got no idea. Some of it was baked into the textures. All of the things you shouldn't do if you're going to localize a game, but we were just throwing it in, hacking it in. So we've made it easier on that front. We've made it harder because we've got a story and so many more puns and so many more in-jokes and references and just
Like
all
the
sorts of stuff.
goblins have got goblin speak, and the voodoo people have got voodoo speak.
Accents. Oh, you can't localize accents. So yeah, we've got all sorts. Yeah, the voodoo talking and goblins and what have you. And then there's Star Wars references. There's Dark Souls references. There's any game you can think of. And also there's a whole quest arc involving a musician friend of ours. So we got Bard Austin, who's going to be at Konsoll next year, possibly, hopefully. And so his quest arc, every time he speaks to you, he does another song, load of song lyrics, but with goblins in it instead of whatever. So yeah, it was great fun to write, but it's going to be a nightmare for Shin to localize. But we don't care, that's his problem. Yeah? Anyone else? There's a couple up there. Look, dual wield.
Hi. Do you watch extra credits?
I have done, yes. It really, really frustrates me because the first time I came to Konsoll, James opened up, and I basically had to sit at the back of the auditorium and rewrite my damn talk because he said all of the things that I was going to say. And I swore that if I came back, I would be on before him. And you didn't do it, did you? No. You put him on first again, and yes. All of the things that James said is absolutely bang on. And again, me and Leanne were sitting up there, and he would be mentioning certain types of games, and we would say, oh, what about this one? And that would be literally the next words out of his mouth. Yeah, he knows his onions, absolutely. I agree with everything he said.
Yeah, I was thinking...
Oh, no, there was one thing I didn't. What did I say? What was he saying about... vertical slices. I don't like vertical slices.
Okay, interesting. But I actually don't like vertical slices either. So I'm glad to hear that. But I was thinking about the monetization because people started talking about it. And I assume you've kind of at least seen part of what James has to say on the monetization of free-to-play models in extra credits, because that's very interesting. And the idea is basically that you want to have your players wanting to pay money for your game.
It's more carrot, less stick.
Yeah.
If they shouldn't have to buy this thing, they should want to buy this thing. And again, everyone always references League of Legends. League of Legends is free. You can play the whole game for free. You never have to spend a penny. I have spent so much money on League of Legends.
Yeah, exactly.
And Astronaut Teemo is just the best thing ever. And he doesn't do anything. It doesn't give me any bonuses in the game. It doesn't make me a better player. If anything, it makes me worse because I'm always picking Teemo and everyone is shouting at me, don't pick Teemo, stop going mid, what are you doing, you crazy? And I'm like, yeah, but look at him in his little spacesuit. Yeah, I've spent a load of money on League of Legends and I'm happy to do so. And I would do so again if I hadn't managed to quit. I've been clean about a year now, so that's good. It's so hard to do because, like, so Super Glyph Quest is probably going to go free to play again in Asia, but or the way we're looking at different monetization models, and for our next game as well, we are quite happy to say, like, here's a coin doubler, for example. Are you accruing resources? You can buy this thing one time, and it will double all of the coins that you get from now until whenever. We're quite happy with that. We're quite happy for, if there's an energy mechanic, there's a one-stop payment that you can do to get rid of it, like Triple Town, for example. I had a real Triple Town problem at one point where I was playing it on my iPhone and I would run out of turns. So I'd go onto Facebook and play it on that until I'd run out of turns. And that would have hopefully made, this one had made a few more turns, so I could then go back over here and play it until I ran out of turns. Until eventually I saw the thing that says, get rid of this turn limitation. Bam, and did it. The things that annoy us are consumables. You know, here, buy this thing for, and you don't know how long it's going to be. You can't make a value call on it. And then also, it's a trust issue. You don't know what they're doing behind the scenes. So the example we always use is stuff like Candy Crush. And it's not the only game to do this. Like Hearthstone, does it? No, I'm not sure Hearthstone does it. No. So the idea being that if you buy a power-up in Candy Crush, they make the game harder because you flagged yourself for someone who's prepared to spend money on it. So if you set up 2 different games of Candy Crush, and on one of them, just buy a power-up and see how far you get, and on the other one, don't spend anything. This one will get a lot further. And it's unfair. Why would I spend money to make my game worse? I don't understand why that's a thing. But it's because nobody knows that that's happening, whereas we've kind of seen how the sausage is made, so to speak.
Yes, but I was thinking, if I can just go on, I know I've been speaking for a long time, but you know, like graphics, making like League of Legends does, and Hearthstone does to some extent too. You can, if you buy things in the game, they give you cooler graphics. Like you could have a different tile set or whatever, like different tiles. You can buy this upgrade that gives you like fancy borders on the things.
Yeah.
And if people like the game enough, they'll certainly be willing to pay for it, and they'll be happy to.
There are ways you can...
Like that, it's, when you're talking about paying for visual effects and
Yeah.
customization, is that you need, and it's with all free-to-play stuff, you need to support it, and it takes a lot of time, and a lot of effort, and a lot of
Yeah.
work. And when it's 2 of you making it, and you have to look after the baby, anything that's like... So we have character customization. For every one new outfit that we want to put into the game, I need to draw that for both the male and the female avatars because they're shaped ever so slightly differently, and then there needs to be an idle and an attack pose for each one. So already that one extra thing, which we're not actually charging for, is 4 times more work than if we didn't put it in, kind of thing. So if we were more people, if we had an art team, for example, absolutely we would go down the road of you can pay us money to make it look however you want, kind of thing, because that's okay.
That's fine, that's opt-in.
Choosing is opt-in. You don't have to do it, and you can still be good at the game, kind of thing.
The other thing with that sort of stuff, if you're talking about like aesthetic customization, or I buy this thing because it looks pretty, because I like the look of it, that carries a lot more weight when there is a forum for you to then show off, hey, look, I bought the big hat. So that really, really helps if your game has a multiplayer component. Or if there is somewhere where there's some button you can say that like spams your friends with, this is what I now look like. If it's just you're doing it in isolation on your own, then you're in the sort of the horse armor debacle that came with Oblivion, you know, where people are like, well, you could do that, but it doesn't really do anything, and no one's going to see it, so why bother?
Well, it depends on what it is, because with Knights of Pen and Paper, I bought the Dungeon Master who was Splinter, because it was Splinter.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
Didn't need to, but I wanted him. My rat sensei.
But yes, absolutely, we agree with the principle. And yeah, if more games did buy this because you want it rather than buy this because you have to, then I think it would be a happier space.
We've run out of time.
Oh, that's a shame. We can go again, right?
Yeah, sure. Okay, thank you so much, Leanne and Alex.